Good Thursday morning, Market Chameleons, and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and checking out the Market Chameleon pre-market show with this man, Dimitri Pargamanik. How you doing, D?
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Listen, I'm sorry about the technical issues yesterday. Verizon really let myself, you, and the entire Chameleon community down.
Yep.
We had to reset all the routers, and God only knows what was wrong. They were on for over 2 hours with me yesterday trying to get it up and going, and we're back. So that's good.
Yeah, that's good news. Yep. And it looked like we were okay right up to the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes. That's when.
Well, yeah, it's connecting to YouTube to stream it live so we can chat and do all the things on YouTube. It just wasn't making the connection from Zoom to YouTube. So anyways, just a reminder, tomorrow's a holiday. And we also are in the midst of Passover, I think, aren't we? Or is that coming up?
Yeah.
So a couple big holidays and no trading tomorrow. Just time with the family and your thoughts. So
thank you. So welcome everyone. Before we get started, just want to quickly remind you, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not a registered investment advisor. We're not a broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need advice, call your registered investment advisor, call your broker. That's what they're there for, to give you advice, provide you with guidance. And with that, let me share my screen.
Oops. Wait, it's a big drum roll, right? You're showing us something new today, or are we going to do that after the pre-market?
After the pre-market, we'll talk about, we constantly push out new features and upgrades. So we did push out, I think it was maybe on Monday, the economic calendar. We had lots of requests for that. We did push it out, so I'm going to show that today, where you could find it, how you could use it. But if you're joining us for the first time, we do this show, Will and I do the show in the mornings to help answer any questions you have about the Market Chameleon tools, data, or analytics. If you want to ask your question live, we provide a link to Zoom on the live chat on YouTube. Click on that. It takes you over to Zoom. When you're inside Zoom, at the bottom of the screen, there's a button, raise your hand. Click on that. Once we let you in, you could ask your question live and direct. You don't need to turn on your video camera. If you prefer to type your question in, you could also type that question into the live chat on YouTube. Will's watching will read it back to me. While we're waiting for people to come in and for questions to queue up, we'll start out looking at the pre-market report to see what's trading in pre-market hours. If we don't have any questions, I'm going to move on and show you guys the economic calendar, where you could find it, some of the features, and how you could use it. If we do have questions, I'll take those. Okay.
Perfect.
So, pre-market report. These are stocks trading in a pre-market hours. We have a list of our most active stocks, our biggest percentage gainers, biggest percentage decliners. Coming down here, I see 27 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 31 on the decliners. From this perspective, looks like slightly bearish bias at the open, but pretty balanced as far as this list goes. If you look closer at the list, you'll see that a lot of the stocks that are on this list are lower market cap stocks. It could be ETFs, leveraged products, closed-end funds, anything that is listed on the major U.S. exchanges. If it's trading in pre-market hours and it meets our thresholds, it could make this list. And we want to narrow it down to get a smaller list of stocks that is more focused, to get a little bit better insights. And what we'll do is use the filters up here. And I'll use this one in ETF. I'm going to click on that, drops it down. You get a list of ETFs to choose from. The top one, SPY, that's the S&P 500 ETF. You can see this list also has some ETFs that are sector-based. But SPY, that's the broad-based ETF. Let's select that. And the list below will get filtered by stocks that are holdings in SPY, which are the S&P 500 constituents. And here we see 3 stocks made our percentage gainers list, 6 on the decliners. The list not very big. Slightly bearish bias though from this perspective at the open. If we don't have any questions, I'll probably just jump to the economic calendar so I could give a quick overview.
Perfect.
Okay. And before I go to the economic calendar, it really came from this page, the morning page, and you could see here there's a list of economic events that are scheduled for today. And some of these economic events are closely followed. And when these economic events come out, they could move the market, right? Because all of a sudden there are new data points. These data points are inputs into the pricing models on Wall Street, and they could reprice the stocks, and you will see the stocks move around. And you know, one of the things we will be doing is probably taking a look at historical moves around these events more intraday. But just for today, I'm going to go to the full economic calendar. So you can see here, there is a link here, full economic calendar. If you press on, it'll go to it. If you want to go from the menu, we put it under the news economic calendar here. Okay, so I'm going to just come from here. And initially, this calendar should look similar to you guys because these are like standard calendars, right? You have the date here and the events and time of the release of these events. And then we did add the results. So if we get the results, we do have a team of people looking and monitoring these and entering them into our database. So that's the result where we're getting these events and getting the data. One of the things we did was, these are today's events, April 6th. But one of the things we did, if you go back, and if we have a historical, so we might have just added these. If we have historical data, if you click on it, it'll go to it. And this, I believe, will take you to the source. So let me click on this. This is pretty new. I tested it a little bit while I was in Miami, and it looked good. So I said, push it out. But if you click on that source, it'll take you to the report. So this is the actual report, and you could read it, and you'll see that usually these reports do contain a lot more details and data. So you get the top line, we get the time of the report, the date. These are some top line numbers here. But if you click on the source, it'll take you to the report, and then you could read more about it. All right. And it's actually a very good exercise to kind of get an overview of the reports and, the purpose of the reports, how they're calculating stuff, how they're organizing things, because at least for me, when I do that, that creates ideas how you could tweak your own models, how you could, tweak your own inputs, and how you could reference some of these reports to, either change some of your assumptions, some of your inputs, or some of your forecasts. So it's a good idea just to kind of get an overview and read it and understand it.
Hey, Dee, we had someone new step in. Could you go from the start, like you just hit the landing page on MarketChameleon.com and walk through how you got to that report?
Yeah, so the report, you could really get it from the main menu under News, Economic Calendar right there. So it doesn't matter which page you're on, you could get it from the main menu.
Gotcha.
All right. Now, so of course that though.
And then you click on
That's
when you're on the report, you click on that little
yeah,
link.
so this little link here, like here, factory orders X transportation. So we could click on this and it'll take us to that report. And then you could read more about it, right? Because you right here, you get a top line number. And if you really want to understand the report and you want to dive deeper into it and read more about it, then click on that. They'll take you they'll take you to the report. Give you a summary, explain the new orders. This is going to the official source, right? And again, I think it is a good habit because you will understand more about just financial, what benchmarks and models and inputs into models and assumptions and forecasting. These are even sometimes, I just read the Federal Reserve, they put out their methodologies, and it's interesting to read because it will kind of give you ideas and educate you about financial model. Okay. And people are following these reports, right? People are using these reports inside their models, right? They are looking at and paying attention, and they're looking inside their models to change their either earnings forecast for GDP, interest rates, inflation. They're using these reports, so it's kind of an important thing in your overall process to kind of get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, some people in the market have actually used these reports to create their own reports, right? They actually go out and try to do their own surveys to get in front of these reports.
Right, and it again, it will help you over the long term to understand, economics and more of what's going on and who's doing what.
Now, I also noticed if you click on the link, like you were looking, I think at the factory goods order, if you click on that link, it goes to an interesting page.
So if you click on that link, and we have a historical data, so see here, this is historical data. We'll draw a graph of the data. This is a table of the data. Okay, so this is table format of what's up here. And this is the interesting part. We do show upcoming, the next 3 or whatever for upcoming releases going forward. But here's the interesting thing here, Willie, is you see we explain here what this is, why it's important. And here I use that AI, right? The AI explanation to help me.
Don't tell me you're using GPT chat.
GPT chats. So, and people have asked me that, why don't you try to use the GPT chat? And really, how do you use technology? You have to start somewhere, right? So I started with the most simplest thing and said, okay, help me write up this indicator. You still have to kind of read it and doesn't make sense with stuff, but what it does do is really help with productivity, because it's much faster at it than if you sat down there and had to write it up yourself, right? So this is our first time just trying to use the ChatGPT to see, well, how does it impact productivity? Like, if it helps us, that means other people must be using it to increase their productivity. And if you listen, Jamie Dimon, he was bullish on AI, thinking that it's going to help his industry. I think even Ken Griffith from Citadel said that he's getting, I believe, like a commercial license because he believes it's going to help the productivity within his firm. And obviously there are other places out there, and I wanted to try to see, well, what if we create these reports, and the hardest, the things that take the longest for me, at least, because I'm not, our background is not writing. We don't come from a background of writing up stuff in articles. We're like really looking at the numbers and creating them internally, the analytics, the models. So I decided, well, let me give this a shot and experience for myself, the productivity. And I'll tell you that from my experience, this really cut down on how quickly you could, produce these reports. At least for this part of it, I could tell you that it was pretty phenomenal how much faster you could get things out, and before how much longer it would take to do these things, because you could refocus your energy on what you're good at, right? If you're good at other parts of it, with the cleaning of the data and the analysis and creating the report, then you get more time to focus on that. And this part was really helpful. So you guys take a look at it. You could go through the report today, click around, see if these explanations are helpful to you. We'll get some feedback. And I think this is because sometimes I forget what this report is. Like sometimes, I'm like, wait a minute, what are these, experts about? I haven't looked at them in a while, and I'll have to go back and refresh my memory. But this is a little bit of, a helpful side note here to just say, okay, now I remember that's what this is trying to do. Again, this is our very first attempt to use a new technology to see how it would help productivity. And you have to assume if it's helping you, if it worked out, then there are a lot of other companies out there probably doing the same thing, and their productivity should start to increase.
We did get a question. Do you know how much Microsoft's investment in OpenAI? Do you know anything about the structure of it? I think they get 49% of the company, and there's some sort of payback for profits.
I don't know all the details. I know that they have made a significant investment in there. We could take a look. They've been writing about, there is a lot of news on there. But I could tell you that there are other companies right now in the AI space as well, doing similar things. It's not just Microsoft. Microsoft did invest in that Chat GPT, right? So the very popular one, that's the one we use. Is very popular. They made a significant investment in it, but I think Google said they're going to have one of their own. Meta has one of their own, and I think there's other ones like Perplexity. There are a bunch of them out there.
You can bet Facebook, Tesla. They all have AI, both internal and external, that they've created and are using. And
and this is
Well, I was going to say the one interesting piece I did read about the Microsoft investment is the amount of cloud store use, basically, that, all this compiling and resourcing of data. It's the use of their server farms, which is a huge cost. They basically could, that now Microsoft has taken on. They're able to internalize all of that. However the data and the scrape, however it works, it's a tremendous amount of processing power.
No, I could imagine. It's a very interesting technology because it analyzes text, not we're used to analyzing numbers. So our our algorithms and stuff, it's really based on numbers, mostly numbers. We do have like some, we have logic parsing, parsing some text, but this is interesting because it focuses on language, analyzing language. And that concept is very like relatively new, with analyzing the language and then creating this output. Google does a good job also analyzing like keywords and language, and they kind of produce you a list of possibilities. This is analyzing the language and just giving you an answer. They're saying this is the best answer I could come up with, after analyzing all that language.
What's so interesting with all this wonderful new technology, and obviously there are also downsides to the technology. The one thing that's always happening is the need for more energy, right? Like, you can imagine, and I heard, I don't know if this was the right analogy, but let's say in the 70s, all the computer power in one iPhone would have taken up an entire skyscraper in New York. And that's how much power it would have taken out. Now it's all in your hand, right? But it's over billions of people. So the power use to have this new technology and everyone using it is incredible. And the more that's done, the more power we're going to need.
And this would be pretty intense. At least we work with event-driven systems, and we work with databases. And when you start querying databases, it's intense. You have machines, they're running processes on data, especially when you have big data trying to come back with an answer. And this is very impressive how quickly it comes back with an answer. Unless they have questions like prepared back somewhere, and they could go in there and just like reference that answer. It's pretty impressive that you could go hit that database, run that analysis, and come back with an answer so quickly. Like that alone is, to me, knowing how things work, knowing, how many servers we have running, doing calculations, and seeing that in action it's incredible. That's really incredible that it can do that.
I mean, just two professions I've heard from people using it in their workflow now. And now this has only been out less than half a year, right?
Yeah.
So people are still figuring out how to put it into their workflow. But I've heard of a programmer who basically uses the ChatGPT to write his code, right? He'll have two different browsers up, and he'll start asking the technical questions he needs answered, and then he'll compare them and compare them and compare them until he gets something. And it's really increased his productivity. Another's a lawyer who uses it to write documents. And you can imagine if all the lawyers, all the programmers, just for a start, are using it, the amount of programming power that's needed that wasn't used before, right?
No, for sure. Programming power. I mean, demand for chips, demand for servers, for all types of things that should go up if people start using it the way envision. And I think right now it's moving pretty quickly. These things are learning pretty quickly, where they called for a timeout, right? Some of the people involved in the AI said, well, hold on a second, let's have a timeout. Let's not go any more advanced than we are right now until we create a set of like rules and regulations, so these things are not harmful in any way going forward, because they're learning them. Whatever's happening in the background, they're kind of learning themselves, and it's not always supervised. So you don't know what kind of, outputs you're going to get out of these things. And right now, I think that, what are we up to? Chat GPT 4, like 4.0.
I'm not sure, but I'm sure they're constantly updated, just like Market Chameleon.
Yeah. So, it's interesting just trying it out myself. Sometimes I just try. That's how you start. You just try it out yourself, and I'll say that yes, this will increase for certain industries, certain businesses. This can tremendously increase productivity because it frees you up to do things that takes, more human brain power, and these other things that it's going back and writing up for you. And, it's quick and it's good. And I don't know, probably what I would say, if I had to do it without its assistance, maybe it would take a week or longer. With its assistance, maybe cut it down to a day or two.
That's a big,
which is a significant amount.
Just I love that the Chameleon community always brings some good information. But Lauren was letting everyone know that there's a chat GBT extension on Chrome. I shared it on the chat. I'll share it with you, G's. So it just sits on your Google browser and allows you to directly access chat GBT from Google, which is interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I mean, if there are no questions, we're right up at 9:30. I may just.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Listen, everyone have a great holiday. Remember, we're off tomorrow for the holidays. And take a look at that economic calendar through the next couple of days and let us know. Obviously, always, if you see things that you think may be off, something wrong, email us support@MarketChameleon.com. It's always very helpful.
Yep. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great trading day. Stay safe out there. Have a good weekend, and hope to